Next on Currents News, another powerful earthquake, this one deadly, rocks Puerto Rico, triggering landslides and collapsing buildings. The Catholic Church in Australia planning a national response as brush fires continue to burn out of control. And we head to Far Rockaway for a celebration that is unique to the culture and faith of the Guatemalan community. Plus, we'll talk to a Jesuit missionary and architect who set up a teaching studio in the diocese. The news starts right now. And good evening, I'm Lydia Serrani. A new and more powerful earthquake rocked Puerto Rico this morning, the second strong tremor in just 2 days. At least one man is dead. A landmark Catholic church has been destroyed, and tonight there is a state of emergency. Currents News' Emily Druby reports the latest on the disaster and what the Archbishop of San Juan is saying.
Buildings reduced to piles of rubble after a magnitude 6.4 earthquake hit Puerto Rico early Tuesday morning, just 1 day after another earthquake rocked the island. This is the scene in Guayanilla. The massive quake destroyed the Immaculate Conception, a landmark Catholic church, a popular site over 180 years old.
Well, people are saddened. People are jolted.
That's the voice of Archbishop Roberto Gonzalez Nieves of the Archdiocese of San Juan. He says a number of churches, including the cathedral in Ponce, have sustained damage from the quakes and that people are worried about what could happen next.
We really don't know what's going to happen here, but people are concerned. And all schools, public and Catholic schools, are closed until they can be evaluated.
The most recent tremor killed at least one person, caused an island-wide power outage, and damaged roads and bridges like this highway in Toyaboa. One of Puerto Rico's most famous landmarks, Punta Ventana, a natural arch at the coast, also collapsed on Monday. On Tuesday, Governor Wanda VÁZQUEZ declared a state of emergency.
We're talking about a situation Puerto Rico had never been exposed to in 102 years.
These are the latest in a string of earthquakes that have shaken Puerto Rico for more than a week. The governor warns there will likely be more in the upcoming days. Archbishop Nieves is asking all to keep Puerto Rico in their prayers. He also says Caritas and Catholic Charities USA are working on sending down a group of volunteer psychologists to help the people during this terrible struggle. Emily Druby, Currents News.
And help is on the way to Puerto Rico from New York. Governor Andrew Cuomo is deploying experts to restore power on the island as quickly as possible. The team is doing a damage assessment today, and then they'll assist in restarting the power grid once everything is stable and the aftershocks have stopped. Cuomo said New York always supports our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Now for the latest on the Iran crisis. At least 56 Iranians were reportedly crushed to death this morning in a stampede that erupted during the funeral for Qassem Soleimani. Before the chaos, millions of people flooded the streets of his hometown, Kerman, in southeastern Iran. Soleimani, a top Iranian general, was killed in an American drone strike on Friday. Today's stampede forced a postponement of his burial. It's still unclear tonight when that will happen. In Washington, President Trump is again warning Iran's rulers against retaliating for the killing of Soleimani. He also told reporters he'll obey the law when it comes to targeting any Iranian cultural sites.
They kill our people, they blow up our people, and then we have to be very gentle with their cultural institutions. But I'm okay with it. It's okay with me. I will say this, if Iran does anything that they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be suffering the consequences, and very strongly.
Trump spoke this afternoon in the Oval Office while meeting with the Prime Minister of Greece. Earlier today, Iran's foreign minister said Americans must get out of the Middle East.
The United States has to wake up to the reality that the people of this region are enraged, that the people of this region want the United States out.
Zarif also said that the Iranian people do not fear America's military might. Iraqi Cardinal Luis Sacco is worried tonight that a volcanic eruption is about to consume his country and neighboring Iran. The Chaldean patriarch is calling for Washington and Tehran to put the brakes on the escalating crisis so that innocent lives don't become the fuel for a military fire. Sacco also says Iraqis are in a state of shock over the killing of Soleimani at Baghdad's airport. Now to Australia, where exhausted firefighters battling those deadly wildfires are in a race against time. Bolstered by cooler weather and desperately needed rain, they are trying to shore up defenses before scorching temperatures return. And now we're learning about the financial toll the disaster is taking. Nothing but red as an Australian Defence Force flies above a small town in Victoria during an evacuation mission. Nearly 15 million acres have been scorched across Australia's 6 states so far this fire season.
This is our war. This fire is Australia's war.
Australian insurers estimate more than $480 million in losses so far this fire season. At least 24 deaths have been confirmed, with most of the casualties in New South Wales.
The ferocity of this sort of fire is unbelievable, and we made the right decision to evacuate. For that I'm thankful.
About 2,700 firefighters are battling the infernos.
I get a lump in my throat sometimes with seeing people who come and have to confront this.
The Australian Defence Force is calling on a few thousand Army Reserve forces and others, including 20 veteran California firefighters.
It's just what I love to do. I love fighting fire, and I want to hopefully help the Australians out there, and hopefully we do our due diligence as we should as a country here, and get out there and get to work.
It's also estimated that almost 500 million animals have perished in the flames. It's an unprecedented calamity, and now the Catholic Church in Australia is planning a national response to complement the help coming from the government, local faith communities, and other groups. For more on that, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, is here. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we are learning that the Australian Catholic bishops have launched several new initiatives to respond to the fires. What exactly are they planning?
That's right. So the bishops of Australia just met a few weeks ago, and just yesterday, Archbishop Mark Coleridge of Brisbane, who's the head of the Australian Catholic bishops, said we're going to announce they were launching a national response as the Catholic Church to complement the government response. So at the center of that is a national collection that will be taking up on Australia Day, the national holiday at the end of the month. But there's a number of sort of other practical things until then, including a national network for both sort of material and spiritual support, providing clothing, shelter, housing, and a host of other just practical needs that the many thousands of people at this point that have been displaced can turn to the church to provide some sort of practical shelter.
So many people have lost their homes, animals have lost their lives. Now we know that they are receiving some material support, and as you saw that firefighter in that video, just so many emotions running high. How are they being helped on a spiritual level?
So Archbishop Anthony Fisher, the Archbishop of Sydney, actually penned a prayer for rain, that they've started saying in a lot of the parishes in Sydney, and other dioceses across the country have adopted the same practice. As a part of the national program that was launched just yesterday, Archbishop Coleridge said that they're going to provide counseling programs, because it's not just enough to provide the material support, but a lot of these people are experiencing their own form of trauma and grief, and the church wants to be there to help them process that.
And here in the United States, how are we seeing Catholics respond to the crisis and help Australians?
I think the main thing is they're trying to sort of stand in solidarity and sort of echo the calls for support that the bishops of Australia have made. Even on just social media, I've seen a number of U.S. Catholic bishops sort of link to ways in which you can give and donate and specific, prayers for support. So I think that's sort of a practical thing. At a parish level, I think a lot of Catholic priests are offering prayers for Australia and the prayers of the faithful. And then I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, if there's some sort of national collection taken up as well by the U.S. bishops as a whole, all sort of rallying behind the Australian Church.
Thank you so much, Christopher White, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Lydia.
A masked mob torched a Catholic church in Chile and then blocked firefighters from putting out the flames. St. Francis Church in Santiago serves the National Police Force, and the arson happened while an anti-government protest was taking place nearby. There was significant damage before the fire was extinguished. A number of churches across Chile have been attacked and looted since the start of the protests in October. And there's breaking news tonight from Kentucky. Covington Catholic High School student Nick Sandman's lawsuit against CNN has reportedly been settled. Sandman's interaction with a Native American elder at the Lincoln Memorial after last year's March for Life was covered widely. Sandman sued the network for $275 million, accusing the outlet of vilifying and bullying him. Terms of the settlement are not being disclosed. Sandman is also suing the Washington Post and NBC. And the Catholics of the Guatemala know him as Señor Esquipulas, the Black Christ. At the center of their devotion is a wooden crucifix unlike any other. Currents News' Jessica Easthope reports Guatemala's cardinal traveled to Queens to help parishioners celebrate an icon that's more than 4 centuries old.
Every year, the Guatemalan community in Far Rockaway celebrates something unique to its culture and faith with a very special guest.
The Señor de Esquipulas in Guatemala has a very great devotion because it is a kind of statue of Jesus Christ, but it's in black. Many people has testified a lot of miracles.
Cardinal Alvaro Ramazzini was given his red hat by Pope Francis on October 5th, 2019, but still makes time to visit Queens each year around the feast day of the Black Christ of Esquipulas to celebrate a Mass at St. Mary, Star of the Sea. Those in attendance say it's an honor to have someone who makes Queens feel so close to home.
We're happy to have him here with us, celebrating the Mass. I think it's a blessing for our country.
This is a replica of the Black Christ of Esquipulas. The original sits in a cathedral in northwest Guatemala. Church leaders say the statue is celebrated not only because of the miracles it's granted, but because of its significance to the entire Guatemalan community.
They face many bad situations. So they need hope, they need to have this confidence in God. God doesn't abandon us.
Cardinal Ramazzini says immigrants from Guatemala often hold the significance of the Black Christ close to their hearts.
To accept the multiculturality of many people here in the United States, not only Guatemalans.
The Cardinal says celebrating Mass each year is a sign that New York City continues to embrace different cultures through faith, something at the heart of ministry here in the Diocese of Immigrants. In Queens, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
And there's a lot more news headed your way. A rare look into the daily life of former Pope Benedict, an update on his health.
One Brooklyn priest is building up the kingdom of God while building furniture. I'm Tim Hartman in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and I'll have the story.
And the mystery in the skies, dozens of drones appearing seemingly out of nowhere. The FBI is now on the case. A Jesuit is following in the path of Jesus, teaching carpentry to students from around the world. Currents News' Tim Hartman catches up with the Jesuit on how he is helping to build God's kingdom one nail at a time.
This missionary is on a new mission. Father Terrence Curry is sanding and sawing spirituality in Brooklyn.
For me, the encounter with God really is in the process of making, of encountering the materials, the stuff of creation.
The Jesuit priest is an architect and started ministering in the Brooklyn Diocese last summer. When he's not serving in parishes, he's hard at work designing furniture in his Sunset Park studio. Father Curry's 35-year ministry includes teaching architecture around the world, including China, where communism forced the priest to be referred to as Professor Curry. Yet he found ways of instilling splinters of scripture.
I have them look at some materials and I say, okay, rather than starting with a concept about function and about form, why don't you encounter the materials and see what the materials inspire? Should I do a golden section?
Former students like Chow Yuen Wu are now visiting the Crafty Cleric in Brooklyn. and says he understands what Father Curry was trying to teach him.
I felt it was something that's much bigger than I am. It is a pursuit of something that is greater than one person's.
Father Curry's hoping to bring those teachings to the Brooklyn Diocese. He's still building prototypes and looking for clients, but he remains inspired by Christ, the real architect.
The dining room table is an altar, right? The altar is a dining room table.
Carving Catholicism in his sawdusted studio. In Sunset Park, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Authorities in China are on high alert tonight as a mysterious illness is spreading across the country. Dozens of people have been stricken with a pneumonia-like illness with symptoms including a high fever, difficulty breathing, and lung lesions. The cause of the illness is still unknown, but officials have already ruled out a resurgence of a highly contagious and deadly virus that hit the country in 2002 and 2003. The outbreak comes just weeks before the country's busiest travel season, the Lunar New Year. At 92 years young, Benedict XVI is not letting either age or retirement slow down his busy schedule. In an interview with a Bavarian TV program, he gave a rare look into his day-to-day life since resigning 7 years ago. Benedict's personal secretary described him as having a clear mind but has lost a lot of his physical strength. Still, despite some health problems, Benedict has a strict day-to-day schedule, getting up early to go to Mass and spending much of his day in his office. Health experts are weighing in. If your New Year's resolution was to lose weight or just to get healthier, you'll have a lot of dietary options to sift through. Melissa Rainey reports on which ones experts say are the best for your body.
You're probably about a week into your new diet for the new year. But before you fully commit to your new routine, consider what health experts rank as the best diet for 2020. The report done by U.S. News & World Report considered factors like balance, maintainability, and taste in 35 different diets. For the third year in a row, the Mediterranean diet remains the best overall for its combination of being easy to follow and healthy. The diet focuses on eating less red meat, sugar, and saturated fat, and more simple, plant-based foods. People following this diet may see the benefits of stronger bones, reduced risk for several diseases, including diabetes, and longer life. You may be surprised that the popular keto diet came in near the bottom of the list. The keto diet restricts your carb intake to levels that many nutritionists feel are unhealthy. Experts say while the keto diet can be a good quick start diet for fast weight loss, it also includes high levels of protein, fats, and dairy to replace the lack of carbs, which can contribute to heart and other chronic disease. I'm Melissa Rainey.
Still to come on Currents News, an unnerving sight at night. The skies over 2 states filled with drones, but no one knows where they're coming from. And words of wisdom from a nun who has worked for 7 popes. And please check out one of the latest features in the tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptism, first communion, confirmation, and marriage. Now, for more information and to submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/Our Diocesan Family. We'll be right back. Some unidentified flying objects in the air above Colorado tonight. Law enforcement officials are scratching their heads as they stare at the sky and try to figure out what has been shooting across the skyline. And now the FAA is sending drones to try and solve the mystery. Russell Haythorne has that story.
The question about what these strange lights are hovering above the plains of eastern Colorado and who is operating them even has law enforcement stumped.
The FAA, every other agency, just wants to get to the bottom of it and find out exactly what it is that people are seeing.
Dozens of the state's top cops gathered for a meeting in Brush on Monday.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect the turnout that I got.
Morgan County Sheriff Dave Martin echoing the concerns of many as the mystery deepens.
There is no local crime that I am aware of that has been committed, but it is very unnerving for our citizens, not only in Morgan County, but throughout northeast Colorado.
I don't think it's silly. It's causing fear in people, and that's not funny.
Phillips County Sheriff Tom Elliott says the strange lights could simply be planes. He regularly tracks the highway of air traffic above him on FlightAware.
So this is a Southwest flight out of Denver. It's going to Omaha, Nebraska.
But he says these sightings have been bizarre beyond regular air traffic.
The real concern with me is that somebody's going to get carried away and they're going to shoot down or shoot out a Flight for Life helicopter that are flying in and out of these hospitals.
The FAA now launching a drone task force with local, state, and federal agencies to include Homeland Security.
To try to determine what it is that people are seeing, and if it is in fact drones, who the operator is and what the reason is for the flight.
It's odd that it's gotten this much life. And really, just if somebody would just come forward and own it, and we could put this thing to rest, and we can go on to more important things.
And that was Russell Haythorne reporting. Now, the Air Force hasn't confirmed that the military is not involved. The FAA says it contacted drone companies, drone test sites, and even companies with waivers to operate at night. So far, none have claimed involvement. A Florida mom welcomes quadruplets in 1 year, and she says that it's a gift from God. Alexandria Wollaston gave birth to twin boys in March of last year. Then soon after, with no plans for more kids, she became pregnant with another set of twins that same year in May. Now she feels her babies are a blessing from above.
I always say that I feel like my grandmothers gave me their kids, because 2 sets of twins and their twins passed away. I feel like they just sent them down for me.
In addition to the twins, Wollaston has a 3-year-old and says she's hoping to keep the kid count to a party of 5. Very busy there. Finally, tonight, we'll leave you with some words of wisdom from a nun who has lived in the Vatican for 7 decades and served 7 popes. Claudia Torres reports on Sister Maria's secret to happiness.
Sister Maria Deseu was born in Portugal 90 years ago. She has lived in the Vatican for 70 years, serving the Church and a total of 7 popes. She's a Franciscan missionary of Mary and recounts how she found her vocation when she was very young.
I was attracted to this life, maybe unconsciously because I was still young. I would go to the altar of the Virgin and say, "Blessed Mother, make me white like this wall." The wall where her image was. That's how I started to feel an attraction, not to married life, although there was a boy chasing after me.
She made her first vows in Rome and began a life of service for Peter's successor. She has lived through 7 pontificates.
I thought, I'm happy to be here. Not everyone has the opportunity to come to Rome and see the Pope.
She helps the Pope with small but important tasks, like washing clothes in the case of Pius XII. She says being close to 7 popes has been a blessing. She still remembers her first time visiting St. Peter's Basilica.
I was completely moved seeing all those people already in that time, seeing the Pope, who was an extraordinary figure. He was so mystical, Pope Pius XII. It looked like the skies were opened.
She has learned great life lessons from each pope. She even extended an invitation to Pope Francis last year.
I told him I am Portuguese, that I'd been in the Vatican for such a long time. I told him, Holy Father, come visit us one day. We're 2 steps away. Then he put his hand on my head.
Although the Pope didn't go visit her, he helped her celebrate her 90th birthday with a Mass. She defines her whole life with one phrase.
A life given to others. If we don't give ourselves to others, what's the purpose of living? The Lord always comes first.
Sister Maria is confident her self-giving can benefit many people and inspire new generations to live a true vocation of service. That's this 90-year-old's secret to happiness. In Rome, Claudia Torres, Currents News.
A true inspiration. And that's Currents News. I'm Lydia Serrani. Thank you so much for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time. Good night.